Hello and welcome to the Jackcast, the Swansea City podcast. I'm Guto, and with me as always we have Steve Carroll and Matt Barocco. Evening, boys.
Evening.
Well, we've got another packed pod really to discuss. The new era at Swansea City got off with I guess you could say a bang. It was certainly exciting up at Blackburn. Plenty to discuss from that game as the Swans went headfirst into Russell Martin's style of play. We'll also be looking at new signings, a new stadium name, and looking ahead to the weekend's game. We'll also be discussing the Carabao Cup game away at Reading, but this is actually being recorded as that game is being played. So we won't. We'll leave that maybe until the end of the podcast. Because things could change. But at the moment, spoiler alert for anybody who doesn't know, it's going quite well. The Swans are 2-0 up as things stand. But before we get to all that, let's go back to Ewood Park. We'll start with you, Steve. You were up there in Blackburn. Just first of all, what was it like being back in an away crowd again?
It's quite strange, but obviously it was great to be in there again. You could sense the buzz amongst the fans, really, after such a long time. I suppose, if I'm honest, I'm slightly disappointed we didn't take more. I mean, I understand for some people there may be a bit of fear to do with COVID and obviously people who've lost their jobs and this type of thing. But I find it a bit surprising that we only took 900 because I was thinking back to 5 years ago, we played Burnley on the opening day, which is a similar trip. I know we were in the Prem, but we took 2,000 that day. So for us to take only half when, you know, let's be honest, we've all been starved of live football was a little bit of a surprise, really. But you know, it was great to be up there, and quite a few people obviously did make the effort to go as well.
One thing I will say, of course, is that there was a bit of a shortage of transport to go up there, and that you know, when people were planning to go up there, that may have contributed to. I know that some people were paying some quite high prices for train tickets, etc., to go up there. Hopefully, of course, as things return to normal, we'll see a few more higher attendances at away games. But the atmosphere sounded amazing. The videos looked great. It looked like everybody had a fantastic day, despite the fact that Matt, the Swans got the season off to a disappointing start, I guess. 2-1 defeat away at Blackburn. I don't think it was massively surprising. I think we spoke in last week's pod about, you know, the difficulties that Russell Martin was going to have introducing his style of play with so little prep time. I think it's fair to say right from the first whistle, Matt, we saw that that lack of prep time may have had an impact on the performance.
I think he said something like he had 2, maybe 3 days of training with the players before the Blackpool game, when you consider the rest after Southampton the weekend before, etc. So it really was a quick turnaround. You know, he's got to unpack his bag in the office and then basically get ready for the first game of the season. But you never know how it's going to go. This opening day of the season always produces some crazy things, and we had probably the most crazy opening 20 minutes of any game played on Saturday afternoon, because it was heart attack time. It was, on one hand, fantastic to see that we were stubbornly playing football no matter what with the opposition were trying to do, and at the same time it really was like heart in your mouth, because right from the first minute, really, we it was Latibeaudiere overhit a back past the bender, and he had to control it under pressure. And right from that moment, really, the tone was set. This is how it's going to be. Really, we're going to have to get used to risky football, but that's how you draw teams out, and that's how you find the space in behind. And it's fair to say, as the game progressed, and I'm sure we'll talk in a little bit about the later part of the game, but we came into it more and more and found more spaces and created great opportunities in open play along the deck. And it was just, I didn't speak to anyone on Saturday coming out of the stadium who wasn't really, really positive about the way the game went, and thinking, you know, it's going to take time, but when we get there, it's going to be something special.
Yeah, I mean, well, I'm interested to know. I mean, Steve, what was the reaction in those opening 15, 20 minutes when it did look very ropey? Every single pass in our own half left you with a heart attack, really, because it just always looked like we were ready to set up Blackburn chances, really trying to play this high risk passing game deep in our own half, having only had a day or two on the training ground to practice it. What was the response from the away end? Were fans, ready to encourage that kind of play, very supportive, or was there a lot of kind of nervousness and people getting antsy about it all?
I think in general it was quite positive, but there was the odd moan. You can't say otherwise, really. I mean, you always get that. I think the frustration was that we did give the ball away quite cheaply on times, but like you could just see there were teething problems, really. I mean, quite often, like from a goal kick, for example, only Bennett would show for the ball, so obviously he would then receive the ball. Then Grimes would drop deep to receive the next pass, but then there wouldn't really be anybody else. A lot of the other players would like two further up the pitch and not showing for it. So then Bender would sort of show for it, and it would end up back with him, and then he might have to do maybe a longer pass. And I think that's where the frustration was. I think maybe the other full-backs maybe needed to drop a bit deeper. I mean, similar with Corey Smith, really. I think that was one of the big issues, really, for me, why I felt quite often we seem to be stuck in our own half and then seem to give the ball away quite cheaply. So I think that's my frustration. There's always going to be teething problems, but I felt as if some of the other players didn't really help out their teammates as much as they should have done. And if we're honest, there were some of the players as well who, I think we've probably got some doubts over how good they are on the ball. So that always then is going to cause problems. I mean, if you want to play this way, you've got to be able to take the ball under pressure and lay it off to another teammate. And we didn't see a lot of evidence from some of the players, really, did we, on Saturday, that they're going to be up to that job long term.
Yeah, I mean, Matt, you said there that the play did improve as the game went on, and after that extremely shaky, opening stage into the game, I think it is fair to say that they looked a little bit more comfortable on the ball as the game went on. We still, conceded an awful amount of chances throughout the match, but when we actually did have the ball and created chances, I mean, there were some opportunities there, and one of the big ones, one of the turning points really in the game came in the first half when Ben Cabango played the best pass that I've seen from a Swansea player for ages, right into the path of Liam Cullen, but he couldn't find the back of the net. A really good save by the Blackburn keeper, and of course, not too long afterwards, Blackburn took the lead then, which you'd have to say they probably deserved on the balance of the first half. But I mean, how much encouragement should we take from the fact that first chance was set up so well for Liam Cullen? But is there a frustration that he couldn't find the back of the net at that time?
Yeah, well, there's something to work with, isn't it? Because I would put Cabango firmly in the category of one of the players on Saturday who demonstrated a distinct lack of passing ability on the whole. I think he couldn't make the five-yarders for much of the game, but at the same time, he plucks out a 25-yard pass, daisy cutter through ball to Liam Cullen, and it's out without doubt the pass of the first half. And he can count himself unlucky. He hasn't ended up with an assist there because Cullen should be tucking that away. We're hoping it'll be, a breakthrough season for him. He had a couple of chances. His one in the second half, I think, was a lot better executed, and it just took a very, very good save to keep it out of the back of the net. But he'll be frustrated he didn't tuck either of them away. And but there's, as we've been already mentioning, there's so many shoots of optimism all over the park. And to further what Steve was saying about little bits of frustration in the opening 20 minutes, it certainly was, from my point of view as well, was that if you're going to play passing football, you're certainly going to try and keep the ball away from the opposition. You need to support the man on the ball, and that is all as Steve mentioned, when we were passing it from goal kicks, it was also when it was going wide to the likes of Bidwell and Norton. They were getting the ball, but they were finding themselves with no Swans player within 25 yards of them because everyone was... So the movement is something that obviously is going to improve because more time on the training pitch, more tactical work. But on Saturday, you could see there was a lot of isolation. There was a lot of players who were just caught, and then we had to play long passes, and we did see quite a few of them then get intercepted, which Blackburn then, rampaging up the pitch and causing us all sorts of problems. But those are all things that can be worked on. They're part of the process of building this back into a football team. The players we've got are very Steve Cooper, in the Steve Cooper mold now. Our defenders are robust, no-nonsense centre-halves. And so we've got to bear in mind, if we're going to try and start playing out from the back and try and bring in the ball out the back, a la Alan Tate or Ashley Williams, then we're going to have to get either slot someone else in there to do that, or certainly spend a lot of time with the players we've got to make them more comfortable doing so. And I'd love to see a return to the sort of triangles we were playing in the Martinez. Again, that's involving the supporting of the players when they receive the ball, getting out of tight corners and stuff. But there's potential. There's so much potential. And you can throw all the stats of shots on goal and goal scoring opportunities and expected goals at me all you want in terms of what came out of Saturday. But what I saw on the pitch was the start of something. I saw so much there which I was hoping to see. So I was happy. I was just thinking, right, okay, we're going to probably lose a few games between now and Christmas by a few goals. Because this is the way we got to play until we get comfortable with it. I would take a mid-table finish this season, even in the bottom half, as long as it's comfortable. If it means that we are building something special for the future, because I think that's what a lot of Swans fans want now.
Yeah, and one player, Steve, who does look like he's quite suited to the new style of play is Stephen Bender. He made only a second league start for the Swans on Saturday. Had a bit of a mixed afternoon, I think it's fair to say. Made several excellent saves, kept the score respectable at times. But he was, badly at fault for that second goal, conceding, a really avoidable penalty right at the start of the second half. How do you kind of rate his performance on the whole? Because he made the Who Scored Team of the Week, which I found quite weird for a keeper who made such a big, error during the match as well. But perhaps that also shows how good the other attributes of his game were.
Yeah, to be fair, I thought Bender did have an excellent game. I mean, he was so good on the ball. He was better than all three centre-halves on the ball. I'm not sure really know how to feel about that in some ways. But, I mean, he was spraying the ball around. His long balls were good. He always seemed to be aiming for somebody. And he did make some decent saves. And to be fair, he caught... he took the ball from crosses quite well. So it was just that one mistake, really. It was poor. You can't look at it in any other way. I think the way we were playing did mean that we would end up conceding a poor goal. I didn't think it would quite be like that. I thought it would be a case of more a defender putting the opposition striker one-on-one or something like that. But honestly, Bender had an excellent game. I saw a lot to be encouraged about. Obviously, if he does give penalties like that away every week, then maybe I'll change my mind slightly. But it is just one of those things, I think. But there's a lot to be encouraged about with Bender, I think, especially if this is the way that we want to play. I think as long as he's going to show the attributes in goal that he doesn't make those type of mistakes often, then we've definitely got an excellent goalkeeper on our hands, which is great as well, because obviously it's a young player that, hopefully is going to be with us for a while, or if not, if he ends up standing out a lot, then maybe we can sell him on for big money. So I think I'd much rather that than bringing in Woodman again for another year anyway, as well as he did for us.
Yeah, it was a very very strange opening day to the season, really. One where the Swans lost, but a lot of fans came away feeling like that there were signs of positivity there, and a few things to get our hopes up for the coming season. Obviously, we're right at the start of a journey here, and there were plenty of issues with the performance against Blackburn, but fair play to Russell Martin. He has really just told them 100% no bridging process here. We're not trying to, make a gradual shift from Steve Cooper's style of play to his. He is straight away from the off asking his players to be gutsy, to take risks, to be adventurous, and if nothing else, it definitely wasn't boring, which is one of the main criticisms aimed at Steve Cooper. There was absolutely nothing boring about the match on Saturday. We'll go on now to discuss a couple of signings, and we'll start, Matt, with the player who scored on his debut on Saturday, and that's Patterson, who we picked up, I think on Friday he was announced. So he had even less time to prepare with the team ahead of this match. But he found the back of the net. How did you rate his performance on the whole?
He was another one. I think he moved a little more central as the game went on, and that's where he really stamped his authority. For me, he was our best player in the second half. I thought everything good went through him, and he was pulling the strings. I just loved his purpose. I love the fact that he was the driving force through midfield. He wasn't content with. Bear in mind, as I'm talking about the second half here, as you can see the penalty in the 46th minute. We had to get back into that game, and then he picked up the reins and obviously bullishly took the goal. But he went on from there then, and he drove us forward. And I really liked his style of play. And the signing himself, I know it's never going to, wow people, because he's not an exotic, foreign name, whatever, who's, pinged him about in other leagues, whatever. But he's such a sensible acquisition for me, because he's there, he's available on a free. Yes, he's obviously got his injury problems, which are well documented, but he's versatile as well, and we are lacking options up the pitch. And he's shown in that little time we've seen him that if we went and signed 4 or 5 other midfielders between now and the closure of the window, then this is a man that can certainly do something, whether it be at the starting 11 or off the bench. And he looked a live wire. So as the game got on, I thought he was the man to really pull us back into it, and was one of the reasons why I felt Russell Martin was spot on when he said that Blackburn were holding on as the game wore on. I know the highlights will make that look daft, because it looks like Blackburn had a host of chances, but really it was at that point then it was just catching us on the break, because they were. We had a lot of it as in between about the hour mark and the 80-minute mark. We were knocking that door. So I thought it was great.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I thought the comment from Martin, the Blackburn were holding on, was a bit weird. I didn't think they were holding on in particular. Not particularly desperately. It wasn't like Steve Cooper Swans for much of last season when we'd be desperately sitting deep and parking the bus. But Steve, on Jamie Patterson, Matt said that there were a couple of groans, maybe some fans on social media, perhaps the younger ones more than the seasoned ones, having a few moans about him. I didn't quite get that, I'll be honest. I mean, I know he's 29. He's had his injury problems of late, which maybe is probably a reason why we're getting him on a free at this stage in his career. But I mean, for me, he ticks a lot of boxes. He's creative. He's got experience in the Championship. He uses the ball well, and as he showed on Saturday, he has got an eye for goal. So I'll be honest, I was surprised that anybody really had any kind of complaints about it, especially when you look at how short we are in that department and how short of creativity we were last season.
Well, yeah, that's exactly what I think. I mean, we're short of players and short of players in that position, and it's on a free transfer. It's a 1-year contract. I'm seeing very little risk, even if it doesn't work out, to be honest with you. So, yeah, I didn't really get the criticism of it, and obviously he's marked his debut now with a goal. And yeah, as Matt said, I thought in the second half, really, he was arguably our best player. So Yeah, I'm happy with that signing. I mean, the fact is we're not awash with money anymore. We can't be going out spending money on loads of players. We will have to mix and match a little bit. And as far as I'm concerned, that's a good deal. It's quite low risk, and yeah, I don't see a lot to moan about really.
We'll say just to quickly pick up on that as well. This is where I was spoiled. We had the many years in the Premier League that people saw us pick up seasoned internationals then, and really like you heard of the name before they were linked to us, and it was an exciting time, no doubt. But we got there by picking up players that were no longer wanted by other clubs because they suited our system, and this is how we began. And we, the very start of this footballing journey, if you like, when we lost away at Oldham under Martinez's first full season, we came away from that with so much optimism and realizing what we were building. And we built a team of cast-offs, if you like, players that just weren't making it. Arguably, greatest signing of the last 25 years, Angel Rangel, was Division 2 in Spain. It's not as if you have to have had, they have to have a 85 plus FIFA rating for these people to understand that it's got to be the right player for your system. You only have to look at the last few years of the Premier League to realise if you throw in money at mercenaries, it doesn't always work out. Quite often it doesn't work out at all.
Yeah, so that's Jamie Patterson through the door. He's signed a 1-year deal with, I think, the option to extend that. Another player who was announced today, we're recording this on Tuesday, is Flynn Downs, who we've known, I think, with quite some certainty for the last couple of days that he was going to be arriving. 22-year-old, more defensive midfielder, I think, in his nature from Ipswich. A former England under-20 international. We haven't stopped signing those just because Steve Cooper's left. Well, Steve, I think it's fair to say this is a position where we probably needed to strengthen this season.
Yeah, I think so. I'm assuming obviously Russell Martin's seen a bit of him when he was at Ipswich. Would have come up against him a few times. Could be Matt Grimes' replacement. I think we've got to be realistic about that. Hopefully not. But, I think I'm quite pleased we're going for these type of players. I mean, young, hungry, looking to improve, and like I say, hopefully will improve with us, and then potentially we can sell them on. That's the way we have to look at it, really. So, yeah, I'm encouraged. Although I can't say I've seen him play or know a great deal about him, but given the way that Russell Martin wants us to play, I think it's wise to assume that he's going to be a player who's good on the ball and will keep the ball moving. You'd have thought so. That sounds good to me.
And Matt, one thing they do say about him is that he does love a tackle. Is that something that we need in midfield? In fairness, it wasn't as much of an issue last season when we had the likes of Smith, Fulton and Grimes in midfield. But possibly with the switch to a new style, we need a player in there who can, another player in there then who can put a tackle in as well as pass the ball around.
Well, that's it, isn't it? Because I think what he would offer, from what I've read about him, is he isn't just, a spoiler. He's a footballer first and foremost. So we need that, and the fact that he offers a bit of grit by the sounds of things as well is a bonus. We need to stem the flow of players making their way through the midfield at ease, and he sounds like someone who would like to stop that at source. I mean, not to vilify the guy, but there was a moment on Saturday where Danda dawdled on the ball in the second half, lost it, and then put in the weakest half-hearted challenge ever, and Blackburn ended up something like 3-on-3 racing towards our goal. So it was, I mean, you just got to be. I want someone to come into that midfield who's going to impose themselves as well as be able to play with it. And it sounds like he's got a bit of both. So and from what I've read, he's very highly rated, and not in the too distant past was being courted by Crystal Palace, and so he's one that they think is destined for the Premier League in the not too distant future. So, hopefully that journey's with us.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see where he fits in, especially, of course, as we've seen injuries to Liam Walsh. He does have an awful injury record, really. So that's something that we may have to just accept. And of course, Corey Smith went off against Blackburn, which was a real blow as well. And hopefully he won't be out for too long. Still waiting to hear further news on that injury as we record this. But yeah, welcome to the club, Flynn Downs, and hopefully he'll settle in quickly. One signing which hasn't been confirmed at this moment, but does look likely if reports are to be believed, Steve, is Ethan Laird, a player who can play left back, but played right wing back under Russell Martin at the MK Dons last season. Very highly rated by their fans. I mean, again, is this a position where we need to strengthen, really? He's expected to come in on loan from Manchester United, with Connor Roberts out until at least October, we think. Well, Kyle Norton is the only other player, really, that we've got to play that position who isn't, you'd think, suited to playing that attacking style of play. I mean, does that mean that Ethan Laird basically was a player we had to get?
I think it is a wise move to bring him in. I mean, Connor Roberts only has a year left. I know he's out till October, but you just don't know. He could end up moving on at the end of the month on deadline day. We might get an offer for him. Someone will take a punt. So I think we did need to bring him in, as you say. I mean, I don't think Norton is suited to going forward, really. I actually think there's a reasonable chance he may end up playing in the back three, because he probably is a little bit better on the ball than some of the other players. So I think, yeah, it's a good move as far as I'm concerned. I think it is a player that we need at this moment in time, whether or not if Connor Roberts does return from injury and is still here. Obviously, that could be an interesting little battle, and maybe Laird will then move to left wing back. We don't really know, do we? But yeah, I think certainly in the short term, it's a position that we need.
And Matt, do you think if we get Laird in, that will be our main transfer business done for the summer? Or do you think maybe we'll be looking at other positions? And if so, where are the areas that you think we could still use a couple of just someone else to strengthen us?
Yeah, well, yeah, I don't think we're done. I think there's certainly space for an acquisition at the top end of the pitch. I know we've brought in a few over the summer, but they're young and untested in some regards, and sure Russell Martin would like to bring in an out and out number 9 to be the linchpin of our attack, and then have the others come in around him. At the moment, we're looking for that. As we record again, sorry, spoiler alert, Pirro has scored tonight, so that hopefully is a confidence booster for him and for the guys up front. But I really want. I'm sure Russell Martin really wants to have a figurehead that you can play off up there, and hopefully that's something he'll be talking about with the hierarchy, which to be fair, I wasn't on last week's pod, so I'll say here now, as he's come in, he had to have so many assurances from what we gather before he would contemplate taking our job, and that fills me with joy, because I don't want a manager that doesn't want to have assurances of control, assurances of a transfer budget, etc. If a manager comes here without those assurances, I'd worry about that manager. So the fact that he's laid the law down and he's got the club to pay significant compensation for his services, and he's come in and he's made it clear, we need this player, we need that player, we need this position filled. This squad isn't good enough. We need to have these numbers in, even if it's just to build up the squad numbers. And the business is being done, and it's not being done on all loans and frees. Downs has come in and what we believe to be around about £1 to £1.5 million, which is a not insignificant sum at all for us. And I'm sure these all conversations have already been had and will continue to be had at boardroom level, that that they've got to trust him and they've got to back him, and that's good to see. You need that synergy, you need that agreement between the chairman and the board and the manager, that they are singing off the same hymn sheet. So fingers crossed. I think there's space for one or two more after this.
Yeah, and it's not just in terms of squad building that business is getting done at the moment, because As you may have read, the Swans have a new stadium name. The Liberty Stadium is gone, even though I'm sure fans will still keep calling it that. Steve, we've got a new stadium name, and it's a familiar sponsor. It's an old shirt sponsor. It's Swansea.com. What were your initial reactions when you heard that it's going to be renamed the Swansea.com Stadium?
If I'm honest, it's sort of gone in one year out the other. I mean, I'm just thinking purely from a financial point of view. If it's better than Liberty, then that's fine. But yeah, we're still going to call it Liberty, aren't we? I think that's fairly obvious. I mean, after 16 years, it's not gonna really change now, is it? So, but yeah, from a financial point of view, I think a deal should have been done a lot sooner, really, to get a shirt sponsor in. But obviously, as the lease for the stadium came up, then we got relegated, which probably didn't help. So, but yeah, if this helps us out financially in these tough times, then it's got to be a good thing, really. And like I say, I don't think the name is going to stick somehow.
There was a substantial backlash online. A lot of people seemed to react quite angrily to the news that the stadium would be renamed. Do you understand that frustration?
From my point of view, I got a feeling it might be to do with the fact that Martin Morgan owns Swansea.com. So yeah, that's probably how I'm reading it. And I suppose it doesn't sound like the greatest of names, does it? I think that's fair, but at the same time, we've got to just think of the money, really. It's as simple as that. No one has to call it the Swansea.com Stadium around here, do they?
No, exactly. I mean, Matt, do you have any issues with the fact that it's Martin Morgan's company, a former director who, of course, left the club in quite controversial circumstances with the takeover a couple of years back, which wasn't very popular, and still question marks about the way it was all conducted. I mean, he's not going to be any more involved in the running of the club, but he's once again putting his money in there. Do you have any kind of issues with that?
Oh, he's just a sponsor now, isn't he? I mean, I know he's got the 5% holding, but that wasn't going to change. So Swansea.com is just a stadium sponsor. We've been running Liberty Properties as a stadium sponsor for free advertising for the last 4 or 5 years, haven't we? It's been ludicrous. So in terms of the name, yeah, okay. If he named his company White Rock, Limited or whatever, I'd be delighted because that was always my first choice of the stadium name. But it's called Swansea.com, and yeah, people won't like it, but we're not going to change how we call it. It's just how it's going to be called on official channels, on the highlights and stuff like that on TV. That's it. We're not gonna suddenly start calling it a different name. It doesn't affect us, does it? I don't think it affects us at all. If it means we've got extra funds or transfers, and it makes a difference between being able to hook a couple of players in here we wouldn't have otherwise been able to get, then fine. The fact that it's owned by Martin Morgan doesn't change anything unless it involves some equity in the club, which I'm not quite convinced does, to be honest with you. It's a sponsorship deal. It could have been called anything. If he's offered the most money, that's the way it is.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I don't really see much wrong with the name. It's not as catchy as Liberty Stadium, perhaps, but it's not the select car leasing stadium like the one the Swans are playing in tonight in the Carabao Cup. It's not the Tony Macaroni Stadium like Livingston have in Scotland. There are far, far worse stadium names that you could get out of sponsorship. It's a local sponsor. It's got the word Swansea in it. I think if it wasn't for the fact there was a .com there, I think a lot of people would feel, yeah, that's fine. But I personally don't really get what all the fuss was about when people were losing their temper over the thing and seemed to be annoyed by the whole thing. Like you said, if you prefer to use the Liberty, if you feel the Liberty comes naturally to you, then keep calling it the Liberty Stadium, which I have a feeling that I'm going to be doing anyway, not out of any kind of particular stance, but just because that's what we've called it since 2005 when we first moved in there. So for me, it's the only time we're probably going to hear the Swansea.com stadium mentioned is on Gillette Soccer Saturday or or things like that, But the first match being played at the stadium under its new name will be this Saturday. It'll be the largest home attendance for a Swans home match anyway since before the pandemic. We're expecting some 16,000 fans at the I was about to say Liberty there. It just shows how difficult it is to get out to that routine at the Swansea.com stadium. I mean, an 8 p.m. kickoff on Sky Sports against Sheffield United. Steve, how are you feeling looking ahead to this game?
Well, I think first of all, it's just going to be great to get back into a more or less full Liberty, isn't it, after such a long time? It's going to be a tough game. Sheffield United obviously have got a good side. They didn't win at the weekend. They lost in their home to Birmingham. So they'll be chomping at the bit at the thought. I mean, I think it shows sometimes that even though they have got a good side, I mean, if you've got such a losing mentality, having, taken a good few beatings last season, that there is a bit of a hangover sometimes into the next term. So when you think of it like that, obviously they've not started great. It might not be the worst time to possibly play them, although that is famous last words, I know. But look, it's going to be a difficult game, and I think they've kept a lot of their good players, haven't they? And there's a couple of players there that we know quite well as well. So yeah, it's just going to be great to be back in there. I think the 8 o'clock kickoff probably isn't the best. I think I'd rather have us 5, if I'm honest. But there's going to be a rousing atmosphere, I would have thought, because a lot of pints are probably going to be consumed before kickoff.
Yeah, none by me, unfortunately, because the fact it's an 8 p.m. kickoff means there are no trains leaving after the match going back to Cardiff. So I'm going to be driving to the match, which wasn't what I had planned initially, but there we go. Thank you very much, Transport for Wales. Matt, I mean, Steve said there that they've come down with a losing mentality, and of course they had an awful season last year. But it's worth pointing out that they won 3 of their last 6 games in the Premier League, and they actually, surprisingly perhaps, won more games in the Premier League last season than the other 2 teams that were relegated with them, West Brom and Fulham. Fulham in particular, I think people would say had a much better season than Sheffield United on the whole, but. It just goes to show that perhaps they did pick up a few more wins in that second half of the season than people expected. What do you expect from Sheffield United this season? Because they've got a new manager, not really many new players. It's pretty much the same squad that they came down with. Do you think that they're going to struggle after having such a bad season last year, or do you think they will be able to start afresh?
I think they'll probably have a stop-start first half of the season. Perhaps I certainly expect when you start coming to the tail end of the season, they'll be up and around the top 6 for sure. Probably higher again, but I can envisage them not necessarily getting it all their own way early doors. We were able to watch the majority of the Birmingham game on the weekend, and they finished with 4 strikers on the pitch, and it wasn't for the last minute or 2. It was at least 15, 17 minutes. They had 4 strikers on the pitch, and no route to go. The reality is they didn't look like scoring. I think it was very much throwing the players on there without a real cohesive plan of how they were going to make it work. And I feel like to some extent that was a bit of an issue last season. When you consider that they spent so much money on Rhian Brewster, of course they bought Ollie McBurney off us, and they never really worked out how to get the most out of them. It would be interesting to see. I've got no doubt that given the opportunity, those 2 will bang in goals, in this league as they've already done. But it'd be interesting to see how long it takes them to really get up to speed. They started with David McGoldrick up front against Birmingham, so they've not really all convinced, or Jokanovic at least perhaps isn't overly convinced on the attributes of Brewster and McBurney at the moment. Needs to be convinced. And then, of course, Billy Sharp is another option for them as well. So, yeah, I think they'll get there. But I'm with Steve in that I think probably the earlier you play them, the more chance you've got of catching them on a, catch them a little bit colder before they really get their teeth into it.
Yeah, it is a weird one, Steve, isn't it? I mean, you look at the striking options they had last at the weekend. I mean, they started with Lys Mousset and Ollie Burke, which I'll be honest, from my point of view, it seemed like a strange choice to start that kind of match against Birmingham. But they also had McGoldrick, they brought on Brewster, they brought on McBurney, and they brought on Billy Sharp. They've got no shortage of striking talent, really, especially by championship standards. But I thought they played a lot of good football against Birmingham. But you're right that they did really struggle to break down Birmingham. And they, I mean, it surprised me, if I'm being honest, that they didn't pose more of a threat.
Yeah, I think it probably is a bit of a shock, really, because like you say, when you look at the strikers that they've got, there should be goals in that team at this level. I mean, maybe there's, they haven't found the right balance yet. I mean, you can get that, really, can't you? And I mean, as Matt has said, they shoved a load of strikers on. That can work, obviously, but in general, then you're playing the percentages, aren't you, rather than trying to be particularly clever. So, yeah, I think it is a little bit of a surprise result, really. But I mean, you always get the odd surprise, don't you, on the opening day, and suppose in this division that was the one that at the weekend they'll come good. I'm pretty sure of that. Jokanovic is a good manager at this level. He's renowned for playing nice football and quite attacking. So, I wouldn't be too alarmed if I was a Sheffield United fan. I think I'd be more frustrated, really, after what was quite a miserable season that they've, a season they expect to be a lot better has started, in the way that they wouldn't have wanted. But I'm pretty sure they'll be in the top 6 when we get to the 46th game.
Yeah, I mean, it's worth noting as well that Birmingham are adept at upsetting the apple cart on the opening day of the season. The last 2 seasons, they beat Brentford 1-0 on both occasions, despite having a fraction of the percent of the possession and chances in both of those games. So it's nothing new for Brighton to surprise very good teams on the opening day. Also thought Sander Berge had a fantastic game in midfield. Matt, one player, I mean, there's going to be a lot of focus before this game on those 2 strikers that used to play for the Swans, Ollie McBurney and Rhian Brewster, both big fan favourites here before they left. McBurney hasn't scored, he scored 1 goal in the whole of last season, spent a lot of it on the bench, definitely didn't have a happy season. Rhian Brewster had not scored for more than a year until tonight. Now, he's found the back of the net against Carlisle, a relatively straightforward finish against, a League 2 side, but it is a goal, and it has come just before he plays against the Swans. How worried should we be about that?
Well, it depends, really. I would be this time last year, Guto, I'd be all over that, because you can tell me I was Mr. Pessimistic. I was negative about everything to do with the Swans. I'd like to think I've turned a leaf, and I'm looking at it thinking Brewster was nailed on to get his first goal in a year against us, and he got it against Carlisle instead. So breathe a sigh of relief, Guto. Living the dream, my friend. It's not going to be a problem now. Brewster scored tonight, so that's him done for another spell. Of course, we could talk strikers and purple patches, and they get one, then they get the next 6 in a row. But we're not going to focus on that. We'll just say he was destined. As we know as Swans fans, players don't score the week before us. They don't score 2 weeks before us. They save it all for the Swansea game, and he's ruined it. He's gone a few days too early, which is great for us. I think. Hope, fingers crossed, he's not a purple patch. It's just the one that we expected to come on Saturday night.
And just out of interest, Matt, I'll ask the same thing to Steve now. If you could take either one of those strikers, Rhian Brewster or Ollie McBurney, and just plonk them in this Russell Martin team, which one of them would you pick right now?
Ollie McBurney, without a doubt. Without a shadow of a doubt. And Rhian Brewster's the more natural finisher, and but for me, Ollie McBurney is a footballer, and he does so much more than put the ball in the back of the net. And he would absolutely love playing for a Russell Martin team. I'm sure of it. Ryan Brewster's a goal scorer, but McBurney is a front man which will lead from the line in every aspect.
Steve, what about you? I'm sure we take either of them right now, but which one would you prefer?
My heart goes with McBurney, but head is with Brewster, because I think Brewster's the better player and the better goal scorer in general, really. I think Brewster, longer term, will probably cut it in the Prem. I'm not sure that McBurney is going to. I think McBurney's destined to always be that, a bit like Dwight Gale. He'll do really well in this division, but I don't think he's up to, really doing it in the Prem, really. But yeah, I mean, it's two players who've done well for us, and I wish well in general, apart from on Saturday, of course.
Yeah, it does show how difficult it is to make the step up when you're a striker from Championship to Premier League. So few players really manage to nail it. From my point of view, do you know what, Steve? I think you talk a lot of sense there, saying I think Brewster has a greater potential to go further in the game than McBurney. I think he is more suited to the Premier League. But right now, I'm thinking with Matt, I think I'd take McBurney in our current situation. I think he'd contribute a lot, not just in terms of goal scoring, but in terms of, his work around the pitch and the creativity. But, I mean, we were very lucky to have both of those strikers at different spells. And Sheffield United should really be lucky to have them right now if they can make the most of them. And you'd say both of them have the major potential to have great seasons this year at Bramall Lane. Just looking ahead to this week's match, then let's get a prediction. Matt, your first one on the podcast. I think you were right last week.
No, I had us down for a 2-1 win.
Yeah, sorry, it was Steve who was right. Steve,
yeah, I think I said 2-0 loss.
There we go. Well, you got the the basic result right, even if you didn't get the scoreline quite right. But Matt, let's hear your prediction then for Sheffield United. You predicted a win against Blackburn. That definitely didn't turn out right.
No.
What do you think of this week?
This is tough. Yeah, I would say it's probably a good time to play Sheffield United, and as much of a full house as the stadium will allow us to have, I think the atmosphere is going to be absolutely bouncing. That said, Sheffield United have so much ammunition, and despite what we'll talk about in a minute, our handsome win tonight, it was against a rather inexperienced Reading team. Not to take anything away from it, but what we saw against Blackburn was very much a team learning this way of playing. And if we were to surrender possession in the sorts of positions we did against Blackburn on Saturday, then there's plenty of players there who won't give a second sniff to sticking them in the back of the net. So I think let's not get too downbeat, and let's avoid the Swans Facebook page if we do come unstuck on Saturday night, because it won't be the end of the world. I think potentially a 2-1 defeat, but let's see how that plays out, because as long as the intention is there, I'm going to be happy that we'll get there eventually.
Do you know what? It's good advice to just avoid any Facebook page under all circumstances at all times. That website is poison. Steve, how about you? Matt says a 2-1 defeat. Are you any more positive?
I am a little bit more positive. Yeah, I'm. I do think with the 12th man behind us, that might just make the difference. I'm gonna say a 1-1 draw.
From my point of view, I think we're going to struggle to frustrate Sheffield United in the same way that Birmingham did. Birmingham were very organised, very, very compact at the back. I don't think we're going to be that way, even though we've had an extra week to work on it. And I think we could. I think we'll concede a few sloppy goals. So I'm going to go. I'll go 3-1 Sheffield United. But again, it's, as Matt said, it is about that progression and just seeing us develop and try to get more comfortable in this style of play and looking long term. So, I mean, none of our predictions are particularly positive, although I think we all take Steve's right now if it was on offer. But that's not the only home game that we'll have this week, because on Tuesday night then, we have our old friends Stoke City arriving at the Liberty Stadium.
It's called it the Liberty again.
I've done it again.
I'm paying you enough.
This is the thing. It's going to take a while. It's going to take a while and take a bit of practice. Stoke City will be coming to the Swansea.com stadium. Matt, we did the double over Stoke last season. One of those games in extremely controversial circumstances, admittedly. But we're not used to doing the double over Stoke. It was something I really enjoyed last season. Do you think we'll keep up our winning streak against Michael O'Neill's side?
I don't know, because we were playing Cooper Bowl last season. We could shit house any team, even the most brutal teams. And Stoke was always traditionally the sort of team that would be, worse than us in every aspect, apart from being able to bully us out of the result. And that's where we were different under Cooper, and we were the ones that were used to ruin teams. But yeah, let's stick positive. Especially if my prediction is correct. I'm sure that Russell Martin isn't an idiot, and he knows that eventually he's going to have to start registering points whilst developing this process, and the message will be loud and clear, especially with 2 home games back to back. And I think we'll get a result against Stoke if we have failed to do so against Sheffield United in particular, and I'll go for a 1-0 win.
I mean, Steve, Stoke have started the season with high hopes. Really, they start every season with high hopes, I guess. They have tended to disappoint since their relegation, and this way back in 2018. Is there something different about this Stoke team, you think?
It's hard to say, really, isn't it? I mean, like you say, I remember when they came down and they signed the likes of Tom Ince and Benik Afobe 3 years ago. I remember thinking, they've made some good signings for this division, and they've kept a lot of other players like Joe Allen. And I thought, well, they've got a very good chance of going up here, but it just didn't work like that, did it? I think they finished in the bottom half every year since they've come down. I mean, it hasn't really clicked for them at all, is it? So I can't say I'd be overly optimistic even now if I was a Stoke fan. They have brought some younger players in this time rather than going for the more experienced ones that they've done previously. But yeah, I can't say that I'd be overly enthusiastic about a Stoke promotion push this season. Although part of me would welcome it if it meant that we didn't have to play them, because I think this is the 11th year in a row I think we've been in the same division as them, isn't it? And yeah, I think nothing's going to top shithousing last season's win against them, is it?
And also, didn't they just haven't they just signed a former Swan as well? Didn't he score the winner for them the other day?
He
signed a few.
He's Sam Surridge scored against Reading on the opening day of the season, and he's also scored against Fleetwood tonight in the Carabao Cup. So he has definitely found his shooting boots. And does that worry you? I mean, we spoke, Matt, about McBurney and Brewster, and the truth is that this week is all about the former Swansea players, because as well as them, of course, we could be facing Reece Norrington-Davies, who did spend some time in our academy before moving away. And Stoke have, I think, 4 former Swansea players. So you've got Joe Allen, you've got Sam Clucas, Ben Wilmot, who has joined them this summer, and Sam Surridge, who has now joined them this summer. I mean, there are a lot of people who will tell you that about the former player curse. If it's going to hit us anytime, it's going to hit us this week, isn't it?
Yeah, I think I didn't hate Sam Surridge when he was here. He was far from the finished article. I think that's fair to say. But he scored a few goals, and I thought he was he was all right. I don't.
He always worked very hard and always kind of, put in a shift, Sam Surridge, and that goes a long way in the Championship.
100%. I think he'll do all right. I don't think he's going to threaten the goal scoring charts too much. I think he'll end up with maybe 10, 12 goals at the end of the season, which is a decent return. But he's we know his game, and he can be a handful in the box, especially if they manage to get an aerial ball in for him, and he can something he can attack. But I'm sure he'll do all right there. But I'm more. I bore myself talking about this on this podcast, to be honest with you, but I'm all about how we work towards this new style of play, because we can keep the ball. They can't do anything. I think that was Rodgers, wasn't it? When we got to the Premier League, he was saying that teams can't hurt us if they can't get the ball off us, and that seems to be a kind of step back to where we're heading now. I know very early days, but it's certainly from what we've seen of Russell Martin at MK Dons. He's very much the mantra of possession is king, and yeah, we had something about 72 or 70% possession again tonight. So I think we can look forward to an era again of dominating the ball. And if we can keep the ball away from Stoke, then there's limited damage they can do to us.
Yeah, it could be difficult. I mean, they're going to be, you'd think, pumped up after a good start to the season against Reading, albeit that looked like a bit of a crazy game. The defending from both teams seemed to be pretty shocking, up there with ours at Blackburn, really. But you'd think that they'll try and press us and try and put us under pressure. And a player like Sam Surridge is going to chase every single ball and put every defender under pressure. I mean, Steve, going back to the former player curse, how superstitious are you when it comes to this? Is this something that you think about when we come up against a team like Stoke, who, in fairness to them as well, have a real habit of scoring against us with former players? Alan's done it before. Klukas has done it, I think, twice before. Before this, they had Wilfred Boney scored against us. So a lot of former Swans who've played for Stoke have scored against us.
Yeah, it does seem quite typical of the type of thing that Stoke would do, doesn't it? I mean, I think when Boney scored against us, it was annoying because obviously we'd wanted him back, and then he only scored those 2 goals against us, which I think that obviously adds to it then. I mean, if Boney had banged in double figures, you go, okay, we're just going to have to sort of accept that strikers do tend to score. But, obviously Joe Allen isn't exactly Mr. Prolific, and neither is Sam Klukas. So for them to score does add insult to injury, really, doesn't it? So, yeah, I think it's a typical type of thing that Stoke do. And I think that, now that we finally got them back for all the, unbearable things that they seem to have got away with against us, they're probably due to have another spell now of good luck. So, yeah, I suppose it wouldn't be the biggest shock in the world, would it?
No, absolutely not. Although, I've been looking through the stats. There is something in this former player curse. I mean, back in 2018-19, there were 4 goals scored by former Swansea players against us, which was 6% of our entire goals for the season. The following year, in Steve Cooper's first season in charge, there were 5 players who former Swansea, 5 goals scored against us by former Swansea players. That added up to 8% of our total goals for the season. Last year, just one. And I'm going to ask the two of you if you can remember who that former Swansea player was who scored against us.
I can't think of who that is.
I haven't got a clue. I've got to be honest.
Go on.
It was Casey Palmer.
Oh, of course it was. Yeah,
it was a player who was actually with us
that season as well.
Yeah, that's what's so bizarre about it.
Yeah, but he was the only former Swan to score against us last season. Only 2% of our goals in the whole last season, 1 out of 45 in all competitions, was scored by a former Swansea player. So, Matt, is the curse coming to an end? Is it dying a death now?
No, because the last 2 years wasn't the Swansea we've known for 10.
It's not the Swansea way. It
wasn't the Swansea way. Everything about Steve Cooper wasn't the Swansea way. It wasn't about dominating the ball. It wasn't about playing sexy football. It was about getting results at all costs, which was what we expected to see off the likes of QPR and stuff. So hence why we bought a couple of players from them, I suppose. But no, I think what we're looking at now Do expect former players to score against us. Do expect referees to give inexplicable decisions against us. That is the Swansea way. Let's dominate the ball and concede to a really dodgy last-minute decision from a ref who's an absolute twonk. And we can all sit there on a Saturday night wondering what on earth we deserve, how on earth we deserve to be hated so much by EFL. That is the Swansea way.
And we can be self-righteous about that as well, because we played nice football despite the fact we lost. So we had the moral victory. That's what's most important, not the result, the moral victory, because that is the Swansea way. Good. Just going to ask the two of you for your predictions for the Stoke match. Matt, you said earlier, I think a 1-0 win. You stand by that prediction?
Yeah. I think especially if my anticipation of Saturday night goes that way, I expect that we'll make sure that we don't come away from nothing from the Tuesday game.
And Steve, do you think we're going to get our first? Well, assuming that our predictions are correct and we won't win against Sheffield United, do you think that we will get our first victory against Stoke?
I can't say I'm massively confident, but on balance, I think we will. Yes, but I'm going to say 2-1 because at the moment, I can't really see us keeping too many clean sheets, if I'm honest. So, I could see us conceding. But, I'm optimistic we may well win that one. And also, of course, hopefully we'll have another couple of players by then back, maybe 1 or 2 from injury. Obviously, Jay Felton's from suspension, and obviously 1 or 2 additions maybe in the transfer market. So that immediately then will give us that little bit of lift as well, won't it?
Yeah, that could make a big difference. I really look forward to seeing Fulton in this team, actually, see what he can offer. It will be interesting to see at what point we actually predict a clean sheet for the Swans this season, if ever. But I'm not going to predict a clean sheet from this game, but I will go for a 1-1 draw. I think Stoke look a decent team this season. I think they'll come down here and try and put us under pressure. But I think we saw in the Reading game that they've got frailties at the back, and they're probably still trying to adapt a few new signings as well. So hopefully we'll be able to get at least a draw there. But who knows? By then, we may be improving to the stage where we may think about getting wins. Who knows? We may have already got a win against Sheffield United. We shouldn't write them off that soon, of course. We're just going to finish off this podcast just by speaking briefly about tonight's Carabao Cup match, which the Swans have won 3-0 against Reading. It has to be said, it's an extremely youthful Reading team, an average age of just 20. The Swans made 5 changes too, so it wasn't a full-strength Swansea team, although, Matt, I think it's fair to say when you look at the teams, this is one that the Swans should have expected to win, really, even with all the caveats we've made for other games during this podcast.
Yeah, one of my mates called it a pre-season opportunity, really, that Russell Martin didn't have, and I agree with that. I think it's when it was when Reading signalled their intention to change, I think Russell Martin was right to stay fairly strong, whilst giving a few youngsters a chance, because it is about the message at the moment. This is about giving as much minutes, competitive minutes as we can, whilst trying to embrace a new way of playing. So yes, whilst there'll be no surprises having looked at the lineups of how the end result was. Again, that wasn't really what I was looking at. It was more about the other aspects of it, and it looks like we did a thoroughly professional job. Although we did score from 2 corners, which is again, what's going on? This isn't the Swansea way. No, I feel like we done a good job. We kept a lot of the ball. We had a huge pass completion rate and high percentages as well. And all in all, it looks like the sort of run out that Russell Martin would have been hoping for before he sent them out this evening.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say, Steve, that this was treated basically like a pre-season match, a chance for Martin to get to know his squad and try a few things out. But I think even without watching the game, there are quite a few positives that we know of. I mean, it seems like it was quite a simple match, so no injuries for what we can tell. Not too much exhaustion, you'd imagine. Kept the ball really well, according to the possession statistics. And also, among the 3 goals, you've got Joe Latibaudiere, who I think it's fair to say had a very difficult first game of the season against Blackburn. That'll do his confidence a world of good. And also Joel Pirro getting off the mark. And if anybody hasn't seen the goal, it was a very smart finish for the Swans' third. So, I mean, a couple of positives there to take from this game, surely.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, you look at the goals, we scored 2 from set pieces, which is always good. And then, as you say, I mean, the third goal was really well worked. So yeah, definite positives. I mean, I think when you look at the teams, there's no doubt we would have expected to win the game, but it just gives us that extra game, doesn't it? To get used to Russell Martin and what he wants from the side. So yeah, I think a good night for us, really, isn't it? And we'll see what we get in the next round. Then, won't we? Of course, no one's expecting us to repeat the heroics of 8 or 9 years ago, but we'll see how far it takes us. And winning games always breeds confidence, which is good.
Yeah, and like you said there, it's another game which isn't the league match, which Martin can maybe use to change the side and try a few things out and get to know his players a bit better. But sounds like a reasonably positive outing, as positive as a first round match in the Carabao Cup can be, really. And we've got our first win of the season under our belt, and that'll surely boost confidence and boost belief ahead of the first home game of the season against Saturday, which is bound to be a fantastic occasion just to get fans back for a proper match at the Liberty. I know we had the match against Barnsley, but we won't be able to compare the two atmospheres, and it should be absolutely fantastic, and I cannot wait. Hopefully you've enjoyed this podcast. Join us next week. We're hoping to record one after the Stoke match ahead of the coming week's matches. So join us then. But until then, thank you very much for listening.